What do you think of the job that Biden's doing?
I think he's doing as abysmally as I expected him to do.
Yeah.
So he's doing awful. And he's doing neoliberal policies. People, and another thing with the squad that just infuriates me, frustrates me to no end, is they'll come out. Some of them will come out. At least some of them have come out and said, Biden is doing better than we expected, or he's meeting our expectations, or like any number of things. And it's horrifying to hear them say that. It's heartbreaking to hear them say that because, first of all, Joe Biden isn't doing, relative to what he inherited, he is doing just as bad as Obama was doing. So, like, it might seem like he's doing more than Obama did, but keep in mind, Obama inherited a Great Recession. Joe Biden inherited a Great Depression. So people think like, oh, Joe Biden, he did a one-time $1,400 stimulus check and then lied to people about it being $2,000. And he did, and he didn't do a living wage. Like, the one thing he promised the left, the one thing he promised Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders endorsed him for this promise was a living wage, a $15 an hour minimum, which $15 isn't even enough at this point. But at least a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Did you have any questions for me, Bernie, at all?
I did, Joe. Let's talk about some of the areas that I think we are actually fairly close. There are some areas where we disagree, but somewhere we are fairly close. Let's talk about the economy. And above and beyond the crisis that we're in right now, very well that millions of our people are working for starvation wages. And one of the fights that I've been waging for a number of years now is to raise that minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Is that something, Joe, that you are supportive of?
Bernie, I am extremely supportive of that, and I thank you for leading on it.
But no, he couldn't get that done. Even through budget reconciliation, where he would have had the votes to get it done, he couldn't get it done because this isn't the mean old Republicans this time. It's the mean old parliamentarian, the advisory role that has the same power and authority that if I just called up one of my fucking family members and asked them what their opinion was on a policy, that's the same amount of authority that the parliamentarian has. And for some reason, that's what stopped them from implementing the minimum wage. Fuck off. Like, you don't want it. You don't want to stop with the obstructionist, debunked talking point. It's been disproven. It's not true. It's fake. It's false. So, bombing Syria. Let's go through the list here. Bombing Syria without congressional approval. Already a war criminal. You're in the beginning of your presidency, the beginning of your first presidency, not your second term or anything like that, and you're already a war criminal. Fantastic. Already bending over for Israel, basically. Doing, and letting their human atrocities go without as so much of a wag of the finger, I guess. And he got out of Afghanistan, but then he left in private troops, thousands, I think, of private contracted mercenaries. Yeah. What makes a private that sounds worse than privatized military? Sounds worse than neither one of them is good. But how is that a win?
Yeah.
I don't see. You still have boots on the ground. They're still American citizens, and now it's private. Now you're just paying a private company to. And that's worse because now that private company is making money off the military-industrial, that is the military-industrial complex, are those private companies. And so all you're doing basically is, and if those private companies put more boots on the ground, you're just outsourcing our military to private companies, which is arguably worse than the actual public government military. Then you have, let's see, he lied about the $1,400 checks. Oh, but don't worry, because Trump somehow a previous president in the previous year passed an entirely different stimulus check, somehow equals Biden's stimulus check. I mean, I don't even understand why Joe Biden even bothered giving out $1,400. He could have just gave out $200 and said, well, Trump's $1,200 and his $600 both combined equal my $2,000 after I give you $200. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you could get in office and be like, I'm going to give everybody $500 stimulus check, and then be like, actually, I'm including the $2,000 per combined by Trump and Biden. So you actually owe me. So you actually owe me $1,500 because I'm like, you don't combine previous stimulus checks of previous administrations passed in entirely different years. And then even after Trump passed his stimulus check, and it was already being handed out to people, Joe Biden was still promising $2,000. He wasn't saying $1,400. He wasn't saying including Trump's $600. He was saying, I will give $2,000. And immediately, by the way. Oh, immediately. Not months and months and months down the fucking road. Like, there's even videos. There's campaigns still running. Like, not still running. Still running at the time of, like, even John Off's of Georgia. What's that? And yeah, exactly. And he was still running ads and being like, we'll give you $2,000 checks immediately. Many Democrats were saying it. Joe Biden wasn't coming out and correcting the record for anybody. So he promised $2,000 checks and then gave, and what's the point? What does that do other than piss people off for the midterms?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and then 2 million less people got checks than when Trump gave out.
That's right. It was means tested. You're right. It was means tested. So less people got checks under Biden. Less people got checks under Biden than they did under Trump. So you think somebody who got a check under Trump but didn't get a check under Biden is going to go, if Trump runs again, they're not going to go, well, I'm going to go back to Trump because I got a check under Trump. I didn't under Joe Biden. Like, or, you know, if you really want to start adding together stimulus checks, well, technically, in Trump's presidency, he gave out, well, let's see, $1,800? Yeah, it was the $1,200, and then it was the $600. So $1,800, and Joe Biden's giving out $1,400. Joe Biden's giving out, and he won't get another stimulus check through. There's no way you're going to get it through without, like, with the filibuster. You're not passing anything anymore. Without budget reconciliation, he's not passing a single thing unless it's wholeheartedly corporate approved, which stimulus checks aren't. So Joe Biden in his presidency gave out $1,400, and Donald Trump gave out $1,800. Come on, that was an easy lineup. That should have been you should have been able to knock that out of the park and give out $2,000 and say, I outdid Trump, this and that. You don't think if you get in another debate with him, he's not going to bring that shit up? Absolutely. Like, Trump's not going to be like, I gave out more than you did because people needed it. And you broke your promise for $2,000 and you gave it to less people and this and that. And like, how do you give, that's how they do it. Their neoliberal policies crush the American people are so wildly, or even their policies, even when they're like a stimulus check, are so wildly inadequate that they give the Republicans effective and accurate talking points. And when I say I hate the Republicans, but goddamn, he's not lying, that doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say, oh shit, Trump's right. Trump's right about that. Oh man, Hillary did do this. Hillary did do that. Oh, Joe Biden did do this. Joe Biden did do that. Like, is Trump good? No. But why if the establishment Democrats didn't suck so hard, then we wouldn't be in the place that we're at. Because yeah, the 1,400 instead of the 2,000, like you said, it was means tested, it's given out to less people. and it was given out way later on than he said it would be given out. It wasn't given out immediately. Let's see, the stimulus checks. I'm not even going to go into his past record. That he still support. I mean, the drug war. He could legalize marijuana tomorrow. You don't need congressional approval to take marijuana off the scheduling list and effectively legalize it. You could do that right now. Right now. Right now. Just legalize marijuana. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
And with all drugs. You can move any drug with an executive order from Schedule 1 to Schedule 4 or 5.
Yes. Yeah. Can he remove it from the list? I thought he could just remove it from the list entirely. Yeah.
Remove it from the list, but he can change the scheduling of the drugs.
Okay. I did know that he could affect the list in some way. I didn't know if I thought he could. But either way, just do that. It would still be an effective legalization or decriminalization at the most, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but he doesn't do that. And like I said, the war on drugs is a racist policy. It was purposely implemented by Richard Nixon to go after two demographics. One was people of color, specifically African Americans, and the poor lefties who opposed him at the war. It was specifically a racist policy implemented to go after people of color and his political enemies. That's all it was, and Joe Biden still supports it. Well, why? Because, you know, he's corrupt, and the alcohol companies make a profit off of keeping their competition illegal. Pharmaceutical companies make a profit off of keeping their competition illegal. Private prisons make a lot of money putting innocent, nonviolent drug offenders in prison, making money off of every single prisoner they put in. Like, there's so many industries making money off of or being protected financially by keeping marijuana illegal. And Joe Biden is basically a corporate-owned puppet to these industries. And so that's ultimately why he lets that racist and very oppressive to most Americans, except for the super wealthy. He lets that policy and stay implemented, because he supports them in the sense that he supports what his donors support.
Absolutely. And to your point, more people are arrested for marijuana use than all violent crimes combined.
Yeah, and the reason, yes, that's true. And the reason why that is because those private prisons need to fill up their prisons. And they do so with drug users, nonviolent drug users.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so the policies, what other policies should we talk about with Joe Biden? I mean, down the list, it's past policies like the Iraq War, which arguably behind George W. Bush, and a lot of people don't know this. They know Joe Biden supported the Iraq War, but they don't know how bad it is. They don't understand that because of Joe Biden, the Iraq War happened. You know, Dick Cheney was really kind of pulling the strings behind George W. Bush. But besides George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, the person most responsible for the Iraq War, the person who pushed it the most, was Joe Biden. He holds the most responsibility, other than maybe Dick Cheney and I guess George W. Bush, for the Iraq War. And he was an architect of the '94 crime bill. He was a puppet of the credit card industry. That's how he started out, actually, was doing the bidding of credit card companies. So you go down the list, and he's just been on the wrong side of every policy throughout in all of history. And as president, he has just been absolutely, he's continued. He's not changed anything. If anything, he's gotten kind of worse on some issues. So my perception of his presidency, even though people say, oh, it's kind of good, it's only perceived that way because we were in a massive Great Depression with unemployment numbers that skyrocketed past that of the original Great Depression. So we needed the FDR's New Deal, but on steroids. And what we got was a little bit better than Obama.
Yeah.
And and Obama's already pretty terrible on most things. And the fact that Joe Biden's policies just aren't adequate enough in the places where he did do something, or lies, with the stimulus check, everywhere else, it's been abysmal. Foreign policy, abysmal. Economic and domestic, or economic, policy, abysmal. It's social issues, abysmal. I mean, and some people might get on me for this, but his VP choice, I think, is kind of a racist choice. I mean, Kamala Harris was a prosecutor. She went out of her way to keep innocent people in prison. She broke the state record for incarcerating African American males.
There's a meme that says Kamala Harris broke the state record for incarcerating black males.
Well, that's just not true.
You know what a meme is, correct, right?
Yes, I
okay,
do.
Come on now.
She purposely put as many people as she could in prison for the purposes of slave labor. I mean, and like I said, she literally created a slave market for African Americans. She broke the state record for incarcerating African Americans, people of color, and then she put them in prisons which used them as slave labor, where they didn't have a choice. They had to work. At best, indentured servitude. At worst, slave labor. But I actually lost a friend, not necessarily because of this issue, but somebody who was looking up to Kamala Harris and oh, what a role model. What somebody to look up to. Isn't it inspiring? Little girls looking up to her. And I'm like, no, that's horrifying. That'd be the last role model I would ever want a child to look up to. It was kind of disheartening to see that, and it got to I didn't end my friendship with this person because I would have just continued. It wasn't until they started using ad hominem, they called me an asshole and stuff, and I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. I don't want to be friends with somebody who goes straight from that to ad hominem attacks. But so it wasn't the substance itself, because I would have sat there and argued till I was blue in the face on that issue. But it's just Kamala Harris. Yeah, she's terrible on policy. It's literally the exact opposite of everything Martin Luther King Jr. ever said he believed in and stood for. I'm gonna butcher I'm paraphrasing here. I'm gonna butcher this saying a little bit, but it goes something like, judge somebody by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
And the content of Kamala Harris's character is just awful. It's the worst. It's abysmal. She actively hurts the communities of which she claims to associate with or identifies with. And it goes to that thing of identity politics, and this is why I hate identity politics for a lot of reasons. And I mean corporate identity politics, because basically it's you can't criticize Hillary Clinton for her corruption or else you're a sexist. You can't criticize Pete Buttigieg for his corruption or his policies because then you're a bigot. You can't criticize Barack Obama or Kamala Harris for their corruption or policies because then you're a racist. And it's I criticize Joe Biden just as much, and he's an older, wealthy white guy. That's
ages.
Yeah. Now I'm exactly. You know, I supported Bernie Sanders, but I'm ageist. Yeah, because they don't have any. They can't actually refute the substance of arguments of calling them corrupt and pointing out their corruption. So they revert back to this, like, well, I'm progressive because I insert identity here, and they basically use that as a deflection against any real criticism.
Absolutely.